Welcome to KetoMealsAndRecipes.com. Today's recipe is really special to me because I'm dedicating this Oreo cookie cheesecake to my mom, an amazing professional chef who loved cheesecakes. It was her birthday on September the 8th, and although I'm a little late in posting this is especially for her because my mom taught me to appreciate a variety of good foods. Before getting started, I would like to mention that I would greatly appreciate it if you could take the time and watch the video right up to the end, because I have a full disclosure announcement and I would like your opinion on a question about this channel. This amazing Cheesecake Factory style Oreo cheesecake does require a bit of prep, but if you follow my step-by-step directions, even new cooks can make it and then enjoy the praise you will get when you serve a slice of this cake. Now for the macronutrient ratio for my Oreo cookie cheesecake, which is 7.2 to 1 with 8.2 grams of total carbs, 1.5 grams of soluble fiber, 0.2 grams of insoluble fiber, resulting in 6.4 grams of net carbs per generous slice. The best way to approach this cake is to plan ahead about 2 or 3 days before you want to make it. First, maybe a day or two before wanting to serve your Oreo cookie cheesecake, make the keto Oreo cookie dough as per my Oreo cookie recipe. And if you're new to my channel, all mentioned recipes as well as the printable recipe for this complete cheesecake, a link will be provided in the description below. Because I have quite a number of loyal subscribers that have already watched my previous recipes, I will only post the highlights of some of the steps for the previously posted videos. For the keto Oreo cookies, link provided below, I use method 2, the cookie cutout method, as per my instructions. In method 2, I place the cookie dough directly onto a silicone mat or parchment paper, and then covered the dough with a second piece of parchment paper, then applying slight pressure with your rolling pin, roll in all directions to create a uniform thick layer that is about 6 millimeters or 1/4 inch thick. Slide the parchment or silicone mat onto a baking sheet and then refrigerate for about 1 to 2 hours. You want the dough to be really chilled. For this recipe, I'm going to be using a 20 or 23 centimeter, which is 8 or 9 inches, springform pan. Because the cookie will shrink a bit once it's baked, I'm using a plate that is slightly bigger than the bottom of my springform pan as my template to score the dough. Then make a bit of a clearing by scraping the crust away from your giant Oreo cookie shape, but leave everything on the tray without moving it. At this point, if you choose to make small decorative Oreo cookies, use a small cookie cutout or bottle top that is about the size of a quarter, 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch diameter, which you use to press out the shapes. Leave these small cutouts on the parchment as well. And now it's time to put the Oreo cookie dough tray into the middle position of a 175 degrees Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit preheated oven. My average baking time for my cookies is between 15 and 20 minutes. When done, at this point, remove the tray from the oven and place on a cooling rack. The cookies may look underbaked at this point, but don't worry. Leave the cookies on the tray and let them cool for about an hour. Then very carefully with a large spatula, remove the cookies off the parchment and place directly onto a cooling rack to dry out thoroughly. Then using the bottom of the springform pan as a template, trim the large cookie to ensure that it will fit very snugly into the springform pan. And there is one more prep step that is needed. On the day that you plan to make your cheesecake filling, first line a springform pan with parchment, first on the bottom, and after you insert the cookie, the sides as well. If you've made mini Oreo cookies, just set them aside for a moment. And using trimmings from your Oreo cookie base and any leftovers from the mini Oreos that you have made, just use your hands and crumple them up into various size pieces and set these crumbs aside because you will be using them for the cheesecake. And on the day that you're making your cheesecake, I also make a fresh batch of my sugar-free sweetened condensed milk and set it aside to cool to room temperature. Now it's finally time to make the cheesecake. To a small bowl or cup, add 1/4 cup of water and 7.2 grams or 1 envelope of Knox powdered gelatin. Stir until the gelatin is dissolved and set it aside, leaving time to bloom. To a mixing bowl, add your room temperature cream cheese, your extra fine ricotta, or in some places it's called smooth ricotta, and add your sweetener. I'm using Lakanto monk fruit based sweetener, which I have ground to confectionery powder. Pour in the lemon juice and whip until this cream cheese mixture is smooth and creamy. Add your sweetened condensed milk and then fold until everything is well combined. Remelt your gelatin and then pour it into the whipping cream as you are continuing to whip. And then set it aside so that you can prepare the whipped cream. And in a separate bowl, add the heavy whipping cream and then continue whipping until the whipped cream is at the medium stiffness stage. Don't overblend at this point. I gently fold the whipped cream and the cheese mixture together. The important thing here is to ensure that the two are well combined. Then get your prepared keto Oreo crumbs and sprinkle them on top of the cheesecake mixture. Fold gently and scrape from the bottom towards the center until all the Oreo cookies are well combined. And there you are. The next thing is to simply pour the cheesecake mixture into your prepared springform pan with the Oreo cookie bottom. Level the top of the cheesecake as flat and smooth as you can make it, and then refrigerate for at least 2 hours to allow the cheesecake to set. I actually make this cheesecake in several stages, and at this point I would leave my cheesecake to set overnight. But if you don't have a lot of time, just continue with the next steps. After the cheesecake has set, you can actually serve it just as it is. You don't have to continue with the rest of the steps if you don't want. It will look and taste amazing. My cheesecake has set overnight, and I'm going to remove the springform pan sides. I place it on top of a tall glass and then loosen the springform pan and just slide the side down. But since this is for a special occasion, I will top this cheesecake with my chocolate truffle ganache and finish with the decorative whipped cream roses and optional mini Oreos. In order to be a little bit more precise with my drips, I place the room temperature ganache in a piping bag and snip the tip to make a very small opening. And starting at one point on the edge of the cheesecake, I make inverted C's or U's, and I also make sure there's a trickle of ganache going down the side of the cake. To get the nicest result, apply even pressure as you squeeze the piping bag and try to work continuously as you go around the cake. Finish by squeezing the ganache into the center of the cake, filling the center with enough chocolate to create a thin chocolate covering. And then simply use an offset spatula and smooth from the edges towards the center. You don't want any more chocolate dripping down the sides, because that would ruin the effect. You need this chocolate ganache to set, so refrigerate for an hour to allow the chocolate to harden. You could also stop at this stage if you don't want to go on, because it already looks really beautiful and very special. And this next part with the whipped cream roses is completely optional. If you choose to go on, whip up the heavy whipping cream to a hard stiffness stage. And you do need to use a piping bag and a decorative piping tip. A little trick I'd like to share with you is to make the roses a little bit more decorative and stand out better. Take some of your chocolate ganache and paint 3 or 4 lines of chocolate inside the bag before you fill the piping bag with the whipping cream. Now it's time to pipe out the roses along the edge of the cake. I really like these roses, and as you can see, the chocolate stripes create a bit of extra decor for my roses. Lastly, since I have a lot of extra chocolate ganache left over, I'm going to use some of this and outline the roses with a stream of chocolate. I was going to stop here because I actually made a little boo-boo, which I'll describe later. I think this looks absolutely gorgeous. What do you think of the cheesecake at this point? I hope that you will agree that it did take a little extra planning, 2 or 3 days, depending on your schedule. But if you follow each step and recipe, you'll find that it's not a very difficult recipe to put together. And in spite of its bit of complexity, please do give it a try. You will be amazed at how delicious it tastes, and you will impress the heck out of your guests. And you can serve it with pride for a job well done. Now a little bit of FYI, because this is actually also a teaching channel. To make the miniature Oreo cookies, I would usually use the cheesecake filling for the center and place one of the cookies in the middle of each rose. Alternatively, with all the extra chocolate ganache, sometimes I make chocolate hearts or I use other molds, and once the chocolate is solid, I use those as decorations. Now for the part of the full disclosure. When I made my second batch of Oreo cookie dough and pressed out my mini cookies, I placed it in the oven, and then I promptly forgot that they were baking, and I completely burnt them and they looked like black charcoal. I was so upset. I didn't feel I had enough time for the entire mini cookie baking and letting it set for a day. But I really wanted to show you how beautiful this cheesecake does look when you take the time to make the mini Oreos, and I wanted them for this thumbnail. So I fully disclosed that I used store-bought Oreo mini cookies. I'm really unhappy about this because I don't like using these kinds of hacks, but I also feel it's really important to be honest with all of you. I would never want to deceive any of you or use sleight of hand to give an impression of something that is not reproducible. Now for my question. I'm really struggling to know what to do for this channel and how to make it grow. So if anybody has any suggestions for social media marketing, I would so very much appreciate your assistance and advice. Please leave any of your suggestions or comments in the description below. And as I said, the link for every single recipe I've mentioned, as well as the recipe for this Oreo cookie cheesecake, will be posted in the description below.